Oh gosh, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to post-episode issues for Better Call Saul. I wasn't sure where to look because I moved my camera. Better Call Saul, Season 1, Episode 4, Heroes. And this is a safe place, everybody. Holy hell, this is the show where you're never going to get sneered at from ladies peeking through windows when you're running around the street looking for a newspaper and with electric jolts flashing through your head as it's amazingly shot and you're covering yourself in your space blanket. That's never going to happen if you're here, folks. Holy shit, what the fuck are we watching, Joe? This is fucking amazing.
It is amazing, man.
What the fuck are we watching? Sorry, I don't usually get into this quick, but this Better Call Saul is impressing the shit out of me. What a great episode. Great produced, greatly written, excellently acted, unfucking believable. Review over. We're done. Yep. Unbelievable.
Yep. Great beginning, too. The way this up, I love all the flashbacks. This is one of the first shows that does flashbacks as well as they do. Yeah. I love the way they make him look in a lot of the scenes. I love the way they're exploring this character.
And the way they bookended the episode with what we saw at the beginning and then the setup at the end was just so beautifully done. And Ren Redwood, welcome. When a guy asks your name, Saul replies, "It's all good, man," a.k.a. Saul Goodman. The name he uses when running.
Good, man.
And that's probably the big headline coming from this episode is that we got our first time Jimmy saying the word Saul Goodman right from the beginning, and I can't even start here. Oh, but anyways, folks, if this is your first time checking us out, we are post-episode issues. We like to recap our favorite shows, get on here as soon as possible after the show airs and talk about them. We love to hear what you have to say about the episodes as well. And if it's your first time and you're into something like that, please hit that subscribe button. If you're into some of the dirty stuff that we're into, you can hit it too.
If that's what you're into.
If that's what you're into. Heck, a Q Flight of the Conchords song.
With some food? No.
With some food, yeah, if that's what you're into.
And stew, and your friends stew.
Me and you, in the nude, if that's the kind of thing that you might be into. Sorry, I stuttered there for a second, but you get the point. I'm excited to Better Call Saul, Joe, but it was such a great episode from beginning to end. The writing on the show is top-notch, and I keep belaboring the point, but it's just great to have the crew back in town showing them how it's done, showing them how to shoot, and this is quickly becoming one of my favorite television shows.
It's up on my top 3 favorite shows top 4 favorite shows right now.
Yeah, I mean nothing could go up.
Or that we're reviewing happens to be my 4 favorite shows on television right now.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I mean, Game of Thrones is kind of separate from everything else, but
yeah, is that really TV considering it's HBO?
It's something different. It's not even TV. Joe, could you adjust me a little bit? I'm doing that echo-y thing.
So, I got you up pretty loud.
Cool. So the episode starts out, and Jimmy's drunk with this guy, Stevie, and which is the guy's name. I'm surprised I picked it up, but this guy's name is Steve. And they're talking about the howling of the wolf brain. Saul's like, it's something in your Umgada brain, something you just gotta get that the wolf brain, the wolf brain.
He says right as you're coming. I think he's saying you do it right as you're coming. And it's like what? Like in her ear? No, not in her fucking ear. You don't want to scream like a fucking wolf in her ear as you're coming. What are you, a psycho? Back up. Give her a little space. Let it out. Let her. It's primal, man. It's primal.
Now, if you switch this around, Joe, if you were in a situation and your significant other started howling like a wolf, would that freak you out?
Oh God.
I'd freak out.
Is that something we can do?
If that's
howling on me.
If that's what he's into. So
no, hey, whatever she wants. Whatever she wants.
So they keep walking down the street and they start howling as they're walking down the street. And
can I have her dressed like a Furby too before she starts?
Oh, Joe's a furry? Is that what we're figuring out?
No, not necessarily a furry. I want her dressed as a Furby.
Okay.
Furby? Yeah, like electronic devices from back in the late '90s that banned all over the place. Yeah, that's
what I want. Teddy Ruxpin doll or something like that. Yeah. So they continue howling like a Teddy Ruxpin doll as Steve asks Saul his name, or asks Jimmy his name, and that's when we get the thing that Renner was talking about. He says, "My name's Saul. Saul Goodman," and they come
Saul Good, man.
they come upon a wallet that's on the ground. It's kind of like a fat sack of cash. And Jimmy asks if there's an ID in there, and Steve says, it's some fat guys, and points to a fat guy down the alley.
There's $1,000 in it, though.
Yeah, and he says that possession is, what, like 4/10
4/10 of the loss.
Ren Renwood says she can be a direwolf sometimes.
Nice.
Oh, that's scary. Now that's scary. And they come upon a...
that's how you know you're doing it right. That's all.
Yeah, that is. Exactly. If you're a direwolf, they do everything better. They do everything better than normal wolves. Bigger, faster, and stronger. So as they get closer to the big guy, they lay out, and the guy kind of looks dead. And Jimmy goes and gets this is fucking hilarious. Jimmy goes and gets a stick
to poke the bear.
To poke him. He's just like poking him, but he's not dead. The guy kind of like calls him. He's just
this whole time too in the alleyway, Saul's like he's like looking around, looking over his shoulder, like, oh wait, that's kind of weird that there's just a wallet in the middle of the alley. He's looking around. You know, I'm pretty much thinking at this point, something fucked up's about to happen.
Oh, my question for you in this situation is: did you believe it was a con? Did you think Saul was playing a trick on him? I gotta admit that Saul's con worked on me. I thought something was up, but I didn't think it was a con until it didn't occur to me.
Here's the thing: I find that wallet, and I'm not the type of asshole that says I'm keeping this money. I'm more the type of asshole that says, all right, 500 for you, 500 for me. Let's get the fuck out of here. Don't touch the body. You might be dead. Bring the wallet with you. Dump it in the soil. Wipe off your fingerprints first. That body might have been dead. I'm not quite that kind of asshole either, but that's the kind of asshole I'd like to be.
Right, so you probably wouldn't be one of Saul's marks. He obviously needs to know this is the type of guy that's just going to run off with the money. That's not going to be like, oh, here's $500.
He needs to know that A, it's a greedy guy, B, it's a guy that's a semi-bully, or someone he can maybe, because there's a couple of ways to play this con. The way it did end up playing out where he goes to get the $10,000 watch or more. It's much more than $3,000 watch. Or he has to play it another way, like, oh, you know, you'll be able to, I don't have an ID, or you'll be able to pawn this. Let's, you know, how about I just take the money and you take the cash because I don't need to be hassled down with that kind of stuff right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to play it to make the guy take the watch and you take whatever cash is in his pocket, but no, I'm not giving up any cash in my pocket for a gold watch that I just found.
Yeah.
There's ways to tell if a Rolex is real or not, but no, I don't know those ways.
I think it was a Rolex. It wasn't a Rolex.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It was exactly that, man.
It was a Rolex. Renwood, I was too. Saul had me the whole time. I was sucked into the con. And Chicky Baby.
As soon as he took the watch off him, I'm starting to think, well, let's go through his pockets a little more. There's got to be something else on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're in for a penny, man, at this point, you're in for a pound.
Chicky Baby says all the cash in the wallet is probably from other marks that they ripped. Yeah, totally. Kind of like in White Man Can't Jump, when they just keep using the money that they're winning from the hustling scams and just keep feeding into it. It's probably his wad. But what we find out later is that Jimmy, at this point, is good at what he does, but he's not smart enough to put it into an enterprise. He says that this is just for extra drinking money. Yeah. So it might be from the fat guy that just puts it up because he's
put these kind of scams to work to do more than just beer money every couple of weeks or something like that, and try to make a living and then go at it. You're talking about you're gonna have to start really moving around the country because you're gonna start really pissing people off. People are gonna start coming back to those same bars, frequenting the areas that you've run this scam too many times. So now you're talking about having to relocate all the time. So it is just for beer money. You're looking for marks that are from out of town, and there's just not enough to run it full time.
We should be scared right now because he's watching. Heisenberg just favorited the tweet of this podcast and is listening right now. So Walter White's out there somewhere cooking some blue meth and he's listening to this podcast. So we've got to be respectful. We've got to make sure we're respectful of the man. You know, you are the man that comes knocking. We know.
I just can't wait to see Walt White standing in the car wash while Saul drives through.
I can't. We talk about this too much, but I can't. I fan geek out about this. I can't wait to see Bryan Cranston as Walter White again, even for a cameo
Yeah.
next.
Or even
Jesse Pinkman,
Jesse coming through for
Aaron Paul.
some lawyer advice. Or yeah, I liked who was it that said, was it Ren or someone, one of our listeners said the ferret, what's his name, I can Weasel, Badger. Badger and his friend coming through Saul's place. I can see happening.
So so they get closer to the big guy, and the big guy's laid out and looks dead. Jimmy's poking him with a stick, but he's not dead. He's just drunk, and he's humming "Smoke on the Water," which took me a couple of rewinds to figure out what he was humming. And he's doing "Smoke on the Water," buttholes. And the guy flips Jimmy off, and he starts calling him a butthole, which is fun. And then he threatens to go all Jean-Claude Van Damme on him.
Roundhouse kick you.
Roundhouse. Inspiring choice.
Because I'm standing here talking to a couple of buttholes, and then when I'm done talking to you, I'm gonna roundhouse kick you. But you're not standing there, man. You're lying down. So shut up, on a butthole, and a roundhouse kick you.
I know. Yeah, I watch the pawn shows too, so I know that as well. I know there's a unique number in the Rolex, so no pawn for me. That's all I'm saying. But this guy doesn't look smart enough to figure out to know that information. He was a dumbass. He just saw the Rolex. He's like, yeah, I can buy that. I can sell that. But if you're someone that's actually gone to try to pawn something, it's not as easy as just stealing something, going to a pawn shop. Yeah. It's a lot of bullshit you need to go through. Not that I've ever tried to steal something. I mean, just trying to sell my shit at a pawn shop. You have to go through a lot of red tape, and sometimes they're just like, you don't have this and that for it. We don't want it.
I don't think I've ever pawned anything.
You've driven me to pawn stuff.
What did I drive you to pawn?
You drove me in Boston to try to pawn video game systems in the 90s at some point.
Oh, no, video game systems, that's not, you don't pawn those.
No, this is before. I brought it to a pawn shop. But that's a different story altogether.
Are you sure it was me? What video game system would you have pawned?
I think it was the Genesis or something. It's ridiculous. But I don't want to talk about this. It might have been Nick. So Stevie says he's going to keep the money, and Jimmy says, I'm going to take the guy's watch. Now Stevie goes, what kind of watch is it? And he asks him to see it, and he sees that it's a Rolex, or Jimmy kind of goes, I don't know what kind it is, and Jimmy tells him to keep the cash while he keeps the watch, but Jimmy says the watch is worth Stevie says that. Jimmy says the watch is worth $3K. So Stevie offers him all the money in his wallet, which is another $80, so like $1,500.
No, it was another $580.
$580. I'm sorry, $580. And then for like a total of about $1,500, and then he runs off while he's calling Jimmy a sucker.
Yep. Real sucker.
So the drunk guy gets up and they high five, and it was all it was a trap. It was a fucking fake. And I can't, like I said, I can't lie. I was totally sucked in, and I was like, oh shit, fucking awesome, Saul.
I knew immediately. I mean, at this point, this is episode 3. We already know his name is Slippin' Jimmy. We already know he tried to run another con on top of that con by trying to become a lawyer for the lady. Like,
I should have known, Joe.
We know he's a low grade con man.
He's a high grade con man. He pressed me tonight. He was like Dana Carvey in Opportunity Knocks tonight. He was kicking some ass. He was amazing.
Guilty matchstick man.
He's getting good. Or Slippery.
He's an extra in that movie.
Slippin' Jimmy is a pretty good con man, and you can see how how he can turn into Saul Goodman. This Jimmy McGill that he is right now suffers from too much conscience that he has to get through a little bit.
Yeah.
So after that, we see both these guys back at their hotel room. They talk about the scam, and they smoke some. They're smoking some bong hits and stuff. And this guy and Jimmy's kind of like glorifying the fat guy, because dude, that Jean-Claude Van Damme line. That was inspiring. That was so beautiful.
It was pretty good. He's like, I'm sorry, I just thought of it. You want me to take it out? He's like, no, man, that was brilliant. And it was brilliant. I thought he was a drunk guy. I didn't quite see how the scam was running, but as soon as they started haggling over the watch, I was like, okay, there's the scam. You know, I knew it immediately, but yeah, I thought that was just a drunk guy on the ground.
A couple of good questions in the chat room. Chicky Baby, do you think Aaron is too old to play Jesse in 2002? He'd be like 15 back then because we met Jesse in 2008, and he's in early 20s. What I'm hoping or thinking if we get a Jesse cameo, because I agree with you, Jesse looked when they showed the flashback for him in the last season of Breaking Bad, supposedly at the beginning of the stage when he was supposed to play himself younger. He already looked too old for that. You could have Jesse pop up in Cinnabon Saul. It's possible you could see Jesse in the future at some point in post Breaking Bad, which is possible. And the other side of that is you could think about it like the Howard Stern movie when he talks about, I'm playing myself in college. It's just suspending disbelief to see the cool factor of having Aaron Paul play Jesse again. It might take me out of it though if he looks a lot older, but especially in a show like this, I think it would stick out. But we'll see. We'll see how they play it. You might just have him on the phone. Maybe it will be like a phone call, like he calls Saul for legal advice.
No, Jesse would be much harder. Even Badger and the other guy might be a little harder.
Yeah,
but
it's you keep having to remember that this is 6 years before. I made a mistake in the first couple of podcasts we did about this. This is 6 years before the start of Breaking Bad. So exactly what Chicky Baby was saying. Jesse would be like 15. Liquid Eagle says, did Stevie know it was a whole X? And Ren Renwood says, nice haul. All I heard was the $80, so $290 each. It was $580 each, so they got like $700 or something each, right? Oh no, because the 1,000 was
1,000 is starter money.
Right. So about $290 each, as Ren Renwood had the math right.
Yep.
So it is. I guess it's just, but that was in the 90s, you figure. So $290 on a little scam like that in the 90s, or very early.
That was my week's pay.
Yeah.
Part-time job at my job.
Pretty good. Not too bad. So we flash forward to the future after our break. Great intro to the show. It got me psyched up just right away.
That's more than my week's pay from back then. You couldn't get 40 hours at the shit places you work,
Yes, it's a very fun scam, very good scam. Just for as Saul puts it, and I'm gonna keep calling him Saul. This person Saul, for doing it for beer money, as the bigger guy is impressed with his skills. Saul kind of gives him the no, you're the man. No, you're the man. So now we cut back after we come back from our theme song to Jimmy in the woods talking to the thieving couple he hunted down in the tent. He says he already called their lawyer, and he says an innocent man's in jail because of their stunt. And Betsy says they'll crucify Craig. They can't risk losing everything. She says it was a teensy little mistake that we made. Jimmy asks what was their plan before they found them. And they don't have a plan. They're just a bunch of dumbasses. And Craig says we're still working it out. And Jimmy kind of tries to work for him and says we have some room to make mistakes. He says they say that they went on a camping trip in a moment's notice. He says that Kim Wexel, who's his lawyer, their lawyer and his kind of girlfriend, is good and will make it work. Betsy then asks about the money, like, do you want me to... What about the money?
I got to say this, too.
You were right.
We're not still working on a plan. This lady had her plan. The plan was to be 5 miles in the woods. She was less than 12 hours away from putting an axe in her husband and her 2 children's heads.
Dude.
I am dead serious about this.
Dude.
She was that far away from killing her husband and her 2 kids. Leaving them in the woods. Hear me out. Leaving them in the woods, and then now she gets to disappear as a single woman traveling with all this money out of the country. Nobody looking for a single woman with all this money. Dyed hair, short haircut, whatever she needs, wig, red, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She's out of the country. She got $1.6 million that she had her husband steal. Then they had this perfect setup for...
He's been working overtime. Joey's been working overtime. Come on,
the plan was set. The plan was
I don't think she was going to kill him. That's a lot of stuff. You've been watching The Walking Dead, too.
No, she was going to kill that... Are you kidding me? She was this far away from getting away clean because the man had no... He didn't care about the money. It was her idea. Absolutely.
I agree with you that it was her idea. I do not...
She was going to kill him and take the money. She was going to kill him and the 2 kids. That controlling bitch was going to take it all.
You're completely off base and out of control. completely off base and out of control. That's not what she was going to do.
Come on, internet land. You back me up on this. You know what was happening.
You're drunk with support, and you think people are gonna back you up. She wasn't gonna kill the kids, dude. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, she was. She was done with them.
Okay, let's go on. Big Kev says, "What's up, guys? Have a good show tonight. I'm listening to you while playing some online poker. Speaking of people of dying, bring me some good luck. Good luck, my friend. Hopefully you get some aces up, and they won't. Hopefully aces hold up, man. Good luck on the online poker. Do not do. Good luck with suited connectors. Hopefully you'll hit big on them. What site are you playing on?" So he says that. Craig says that they're still working out the plan. Jimmy says they have room to make excuses. He says tell them they took a camping trip at the spur of the moment. He says that Kim is a good lawyer, will make it work. And Betsy asked about the money. And one thing I definitely agree with Joe 100% on that he said last week. It isn't that this woman's a murderer. We don't have any information to prove this yet. I agree with your hunch that this woman is conniving and...
She convinced her husband to trash the house, grab the money, grab the kids, hike 5 miles up into the woods in the middle of the night with the big bag of money, making it look like they had been kidnapped. And literally, if she kills both of them and does get away, it's the perfect cover. Okay, this guy that they have arrested outside is going away for their murder.
Yeah, she wasn't gonna kill him. But let's hear from the chat room. Liquid Eagle says, "Don't know about murdering the family, but I could see her skipping out while they were sleeping. But she's no psychopath."
No, family. Dad turns her in. Dad turns her in to get her back.
They can't find her. She's off. But Dad's not going to turn her in because it shows his guilt.
Dad turns her in.
He wouldn't do that because he'd go to jail for stealing the money.
Dad turns her in.
He's too much of a pussy to do that.
She kills both of them.
Dude, no.
All of them. They're all dead. She walks away with all that money.
Dude,
absolutely.
No. Dude, no.
Dude, you don't watch ID Discovery. I am forced to watch that shit all day long. I know this woman kills the kids, kills the husband, takes the money. She makes me watch it. She's over there smirking. She hasn't opened her mouth because she got plans. Somehow it's involved.
Just because you have an inherent...
I make my cat drink a little bit of my water every time.
Joe, just because you have an inherent distrust for women, don't bring it here, man. Come on. So Betsy says they deserve the money because he worked overtime. They think it's fair, not legal, and they both kind of go into this whole this rehearsed. I worked overtime. Betsy goes into slavery used to be legal, and just because something's illegal doesn't make it bad. Legal just doesn't make it okay. And Jimmy says it's right up there with slavery.
Yeah,
and Betsy,
not quite.
Betsy begs him not to tell anybody about the money. They offer him some money for a bribe, but probably about 50 grand that they pull out for him? I don't know. And she asks to pretend he didn't see the money. Jimmy says he cannot take a bribe. He says he can take a retainer for his legal services, and they say he's not his lawyer, and she says probably one of the funniest lines of the episode. Well, you're the kind of lawyer that guilty people go to.
Yeah, that looks like is represented by guilty people, or represents guilty people. Yeah, and that's a big thing, especially after watching what I watched last night on John Oliver, with all these the percentage. Okay, so in 39 states, lawyers that are elected to their positions, they are allowed to take donations, or not just allowed to take, but solicit donations from the lawyers that even have to that appear in front of them all the time. And it's something like most of I forget what percentage of the judges, but it was a high percentage of the judges side 71% of the time with those lawyers that give them donations. One guy up to 93% of the time. It's fucking crazy. Crazy. So yeah, you look like the kind of guy that represents guilty people.
Yep.
Who hasn't bribed any fucking judges yet.
So she finally just hands him the cash again, and he takes it. And so Jimmy's driving through, and Mike's in the parking lot attendant. We got one Mike scene tonight, which was really fun. And Saul pulls up, He asks, have you seen the paper, if it's made the paper, and he goes, it'll be there tomorrow. He says, Jimmy said, the Kettlemans were found safe and sound, and you were right. He says he went out to find them. You assume, and this is probably my Saul line of the night, he assumes criminals will be smarter than they are, and it breaks his heart a little bit that these people are idiots. And Jimmy thanks him for the help and tells Mike if he ever needs any assistance, which Mike just closed the window. He also refers to Mike as not really being a talkative individual. He uses a bigger word than that, but not being a
loquacious,
loquacious individual.
You're not very loquacious, are you?
Yep, and he says, Mike says, not everyone has your gifts, man.
Yeah, shuts the window in his face.
Big Kev, oh, awesome. That's a good site. My friend plays on that sometimes. Good luck with your poker. Hopefully we do bring you some luck. You owe us, what is it? We'll take 10%. We'll take 10% of your winnings if you do well tonight. If you lose, we're not paying it.
Can't we just take what the house takes and take like 2% of every pot or something?
Yeah, something like that. We'll definitely take. I'll definitely take some of that pot. So in the courthouse, Jimmy waits for Nacho while he's in the handcuffs, and he starts going into full Saul Goodman mode. Nacho's the victim here, and the cops unlock him, and Jimmy says the family whispers from the family wasn't even kidnapped; they were camping. The cop tells Jimmy not to push, and he calls him a scumbag, which I think Jimmy kind of liked. And he also tells Nacho that he's got his eye on him. The cop does. And Jimmy says he did more than what Nacho asked him. The two of them should be square. And he asks him if he needs a ride, which Saul says he expects him to believe that they were camping. Or Nacho goes, you expect me to believe that those guys were just camping? He says he ran his offer by Jimmy, and then someone warned them, and suddenly they go camping. It doesn't make any sense. And Saul goes, well, they're kind of woodsy people.
Yeah.
They don't plan ahead. And Nacho says they ratted and there'll be consequences, which Jimmy says whoever said anything was probably worried about the kids. And he said, Nacho, you were sloppy, and that's on you. You didn't even clean the blood out of your van. You hid out in front of these people. You were made. If anybody warned them, if anybody warned these people, that probably saved your ass. So before you do,
absolutely right, and that's kind of Nacho had zero rebuttal for him because he knew what Saul was saying was correct, and I think he's actually sees Saul as more of an asset for the future than a target in the future at this point.
100% agree with you, Joe. 100%. I think he looks at Saul and sees opportunity, sees almost, you could see like a scout going to see a raw fighter in a gym or something that you could just see has like ability, and he's just looking at him. If I stay close to this guy's gonna make me money at some point. This guy
he can see that Saul has been not on the level in his life fully. That Saul is one of those people that sits in an interesting place of being able to see both sides of the coin. And quite clearly, and the lines of morality and right and wrong is very blurred. There is no, two sides of a coin. It's more like a ball.
And that's what this show and Breaking Bad do exceptionally well. Is live in that gray area and showing those extremes. And I thought it's really awesome some of the stuff they did with Odenkirk tonight with just watching him deal, even that scene right at the beginning, and watching him deal with the response of her telling him that he's just a lawyer, that losers go, you're a loser lawyer, and it just hurt him. You can see how much it hurt him. It was really great stuff that they're doing with him. And he says. He says, yeah, he's lucky that he got the family out before Nacho did something more stupid. Jimmy says that whoever the Good Samaritan did him a favor. And as Joe said, Nacho storms off, knowing that he really doesn't have any rebuttal, and I agree, thinking that Jimmy's gonna come in handy later. And Jimmy also has a little bit of balls in this situation because he suddenly has $50,000 in his pocket. So he feels a little hand in the situation.
Oh, and I love that we don't actually see him take the money until after this scene. We see him get back to the nail salon, and he pulls out the cash. I think it's the next scene, right?
It is the next scene.
And he pulls out the cash, and he's like, okay, now, how do I fill out these fucking receipts. Miscellaneous expenses, consulting fee, transportation fee. Oh, I had dinner while I was out. Shit. And he's like having a tough time, like accounting $50,000. They get my VIP service.
All to a montage sound music of "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah" in the back.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm fucking amazing. I'm sitting there again. That's one of those moments where I'm like, ah! I just loved it. I'm fucking loving what I'm watching here, and him sitting there trying to figure out how to launder the money was I got so much joy out of that scene. It was great. And
It was fucking awesome.
he's like charging them for the laundering fees. You know, he's like, $10 for cleaning my coat, and
Yep.
so next we see Jimmy getting a customized, tailored suit in an expensive wool, and he's got it all written down on kind of like a Post-it note, and he's got all of his reading what the suit should exactly look like. And again, right here, I wasn't sure where he was going with this, but fucking amazing where they went with this. And he's reading up the piece of paper. You need proper Sea Island cotton shirt with mother of pearl buttons. Jimmy looks at some like loud orange shirt.
Yeah, I was thinking it was kind of rather specific for just getting a really nice suit. Like okay, you go get a nice tailor-made suit or like a really super expensive off-the-rack suit or something.
Yeah, I thought
he's getting really specific with, I want the mother of pearl, I want this specific type of cotton, this specific color, a knit tie. You know, like he wants it to look an exact specific way. And I was curious as to why he was spending all this money. I just chalked it up to at first. Oh, you gotta look like success to make success.
Yeah, and I kind of thought maybe he knows the girl's specific taste. I was going to the most basic, obvious thing, which probably.
See, I was thinking the other obvious thing that they told us earlier, which was you look like someone that represents guilty people.
Me too. I was thinking that as well. Chicky Baby says Nacho is an idiot to take the van to stake out with blood still in it. I don't think he's much smarter than Tuco. He just doesn't scream about everything. Yeah, and that's one of those things too. In that scene, I had thought more of Nacho before this moment, and then when Saul points out how stupid he was, and bam, 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 it made.
You don't use a stolen car. You use your actual fucking van that's registered in your name to go sit outside the house of someone who's being investigated for stealing $1.6 million. You're a fucking moron.
You're not even down the block a little bit. You're like right outside the house looking.
Yep. Or you don't like park 3 blocks away and do your best ninja skills to get close and through backyards without getting seen to, you know.
Yeah, it was a dumbass move by him. And so then we go back to the nail shop, and he's looking at some custom swatches for his hair color. One of them is, what were they called? I wrote them down somewhere in here. The
Strawberry Fields.
Strawberry Fields Forever, and I forget what the other one was.
Yeah.
But that's the one he wants. But the other woman suggests this other hair color because that's the natural color it is. And the woman says he's wrong. He decides to go for a simple curling iron job because he doesn't want it to be permanent, to kind of look like Tony Curtis from Spartacus, which is fucking hilarious that Spartacus gets brought up because I believe Joe mentioned Spartacus in one of our earlier podcasts, one of our more recent podcasts. So Kim calls Jimmy and gets his recording of him with the fake British accent, which is fucking hilarious too. And she says it's her and asks him out to a movie Saturday night and even offers to pay. She asks him to give her a call either way. So then we cut over to Hamlin talking to Kim about the Kettlemans, and she says that they kind of screwed them over, and he asks her to take a ride with him, and she asks where they're going, but he just goes, "Come on, take a ride with me." They head out to the parking lot, and they show them what they show. They show them the giant billboard that it's Jimmy in the suit, looking like he's kind of dressed like Hamlin. He even has the blonde hair. Hamlin says Jimmy's forcing his hand, and he has the symbol for his company instead of the initials of the company. It's just Jimmy's initials, and yeah, fuck.
Which is one of the same names that's in the initials of their company, which is Miguel. So it's JMM instead of HHM.
And at first, again here, I realized that Jimmy was probably onto some bigger con here, but I wasn't sure where he was going with this. I was like, oh, this is just a fuck you. He's doing this just as a fuck you to this guy. I didn't think there was method to the madness, and there ends up being a lot of method to the madness. And it's a really smart plan because
Yeah, no, and he is running a long game, and that just shows the level of layers that Jimmy thinks on.
absolutely. And it is also a little bit of, I remember hearing the guys from South Park talk about their early interactions with Comedy Central, and they'd always send out cuts. And I guess it's just a common thing. You always send out cuts that are much dirtier than you actually really want, so that when they cut out parts and they go, oh, this is all you can do. And I think Jimmy essentially is dealing with, because he really just wants to use his name and use them as a springboard to get more clients. He doesn't really care too much about this guy. He wants to just piss on him a little bit, and he knows that this is just the perfect fuck you to get Hamlin. It's really a great plan. Liquid Eagle says Jimmy looked more like an asshole than the guy he was mocking. It was a real, like right away, it was a real asshole move by Jimmy. It looked like
it was intentionally an asshole move. He did it so he would look like an asshole. He did like we said, it was the long game that he's looking for. He did this to provoke the subpoena that he received. Subpoena, yep. Is that right?
Yeah, to get
cease and desist.
Cease and desist. So we see Jimmy sitting with cucumbers on his eyes back at the salon when there's a knock on the salon door, and he goes, and it's Kim. He offers to let her try the foot bath, and he says that foot baths and massages and this is salon life, like thug life. Like salon life is good, hanging out. This is the benefits of living here, and I got to admit, it'd be a pretty good benefit. And she kind of tries the massage chair, and they figure out the proper settings. She says it's nice, and he says it's one of the perks. She hands him a cease and desist letter, and asks how pissed Hamlin is. And Kim says it's serious, and asks what the hell's with the billboard. She says she doesn't get what he's doing, and says he's spending his money, wasting money, turning himself into a Hamlin clone. So she thinks he's just trying to copy everything that they're doing.
That just goes to show just these are supposed to be some top-notch lawyers too. And it just goes to show you just what level Jimmy's thinking at. That he's on a level way beyond these people, way beyond them.
But if this is a company that like Chuck founded and stuff, you could see how maybe they're based. I don't know. This guy's.
But that's just it. Chuck founded this company. Chuck is Jimmy's brother. Chuck knows things that these people don't know, and Chuck isn't there anymore.
Right. So
Chuck isn't there to help them, to keep them away from it, to show them to tell them what Jimmy's trying to pull on them.
Right.
Because what Jimmy's about to do, the name recognition will even help in his lawsuit. Look I got all this name recognition because of this hero fucking con I just pulled. How can you make me change my name and stuff? Now he doesn't have to change his name. Now he doesn't have to, and if he does get forced to change it, he might even be able to make them pay for the name change and more advertising and stuff. So, he's in a win-win situation, kind of.
So she's kind of on the edge of telling Jimmy, and this could get much worse. You don't know what you're doing.
And for some woman that's supposed to know him so well, she's sitting there telling Jimmy, you got to be careful. You're in a no-win situation, Jimmy. But reality, she should be sitting there telling Hamlin, listen, just friggin' leave him alone. This is only going to get worse for you. We know Jimmy. I know exactly who Jimmy is, and Jimmy is not, he's not going to go away. He's only going to get worse.
I guess it makes me think that she doesn't know him that well, and a lot of people think of Jimmy.
Rose-colored glasses, and he's that slick con man, smooth talker. She's never seen that side of him.
Right. She knows
mailroom Jimmy.
Or the loser little brother that's wanting to be
Jimmy.
That's tried to behave since Chuck bailed him out of being Slippery Jimmy.
Right, mailroom Jimmy.
Mailroom Jimmy. There's so many Jimmy.
Jimmy's got so many layers. He's got more layers than hairstyles.
So Kim turns off the massage chair and says the next step is they're going to do an injunction, and it's a fight he can't win. Uh, so Ren Renwood says, so she served him, but he does not open the letter.
No, because they know what the letter was. They know exactly what the letter was. It was a cease and desist. As soon as which is why he knew exactly what he was doing. He was waiting for that cease and desist. He knew that guy was going to file that, and so when she pulled that letter out, he was like, "That's a cease and desist," and she goes, "Yeah, and there's more to come." And he's like, "I know, I don't care. Here, take it. I don't give a shit. Of course, I'll see you at court."
So she says it's a fight he can't win, as Joe was saying, and Jimmy just ignores her. She leaves. And Harlan says, then we go into them in the courtroom with Harlan saying that Jimmy's ripping off their logo, and Jimmy says, "Come on, there's only so many, an infinite number of fonts. Mine's McDowell's, there is McDonald's. I have the golden arcs."
That's so funny. I said to Katie the same thing. Oh my God, he's McDowelling them. He's
totally McDowelling them. Hamlin says he feels like
to American.
He feels like he's looking at Groucho Marx, like a picture of himself in the mirror. He says he's trying to confuse clients, and Jimmy says it's his name. They can't take his name from him, which, again, I thought this was the initial plan, just to make it so it's okay that he could use his name. But it was a much bigger plan than that. Jimmy says Hamlin wants him to change his name. The judge tells him, that's enough. No one's going to make you change your name. You're within rights to advertise with your new name, but come on, Jimmy. The billboard obviously has elements of their logo. You have 48 hours to take the shit down. So Jimmy immediately right after that calls a TV station and says, gets in a sort of a little montage here of him trying to convince reporters to be interested in the story. David and Goliath case. The report doesn't.
No one cares.
No one cares. So Hamlin walks by, and Jimmy kind of flips him off, which is funny. And he calls another TV station, and asks if they want to bring down a big law firm. And he makes another call after call after call about the circumstance. He's not making a lot of headway. He keeps calling station after station. He just keeps getting nowhere. And then he sees a girl in a college t-shirt, and he makes another call. A guy is taking down the billboard as Jimmy stands in front of the camera. He's working with college kids. Just he got some people at like a local access.
$100 an hour.
$100 an hour. Jimmy asks how he looks, and he kind of does this funny segment where we have the way they shoot Better Call Saul with like the wide angle and almost like a cinematic television landscape mixed with like the 4x3 TV video thing of watching Saul back and forth. And it was really cool and a really funny scene the way they shot it. He works as a public defender, and it was his dream to own a business. He saved up all the money he could, Joe, and all he was able to do was build one billboard. And a large law firm came in, and they said they were hurting his business. He says they're
in the background, right around there, you see the corner start to peel. You see what looks like someone might be up there, and you're like, "Oh my God, they're tearing down his billboard."
Yep, they turned down his billboard. It's gonna happen. We're just gonna see it. It's gonna be a joke because it's gonna fall down right behind him. It's gonna be sad. But no, it's a worker that falls down. And okay, right when I saw the worker fell down, I might not have believed the first one, but this one I obviously knew it was a con. Right away I was like, oh, this is a fucking con.
Yeah.
On Superman.
Super Jimmy.
Because it was the bookends from the beginning scene and seeing this again, and Jimmy yells, "Call 911!" and again, like Joe and Katie were saying, Super Jimmy. He runs to save the day. He runs to the long ladder and he like counts to 3 or 4, like he's been planning this, and he walks up and goes up to the guys. The guy's screaming for help, almost in a way like, "What's taking you so long? Get the hell here! You're supposed to be here sooner." Now the kid keeps filming Jimmy as he climbs up the billboard ladder, and cars are stopping, crowds are going, people have flip phones, being period specific and taking flip phone pictures. And he makes it to the top of the billboards, and the guy yells again for him to hurry up. He's dangling by one of the harnesses, and Jimmy goes and helps him. He grabs his hand, he catches him up by the fingers.
I'm sorry, but Jimmy pulls this guy up with one arm.
He does the Lord of the Rings thing. He does the.
There had to be some sort of winch going on. There's no way Jimmy lifts this guy with the one arm like that. That was crazy.
Ren Renwood says he also brought up the HHM gives a lot to local charities. Slippin' Jimmy. Oh, that's Slippin' Jimmy. I'm loving this guy. So Jimmy goes in and helps him, and he grabs his hand and uses the super strength that he has to pull him up. But they had to have done this. They planned this out. He's wearing some sort of harness to make it easy for him to get up or something. No way Jimmy's strong enough to pull that guy up.
Yeah.
And it ended up again being all a trap. Jimmy does an interview and says it and kind of really uses it to explode his star. Gets on the news, starts talking about how scared he was in the moment. You know, the classic stuff you see on when characters do this stuff. Hamlin rants on to Kim while they're watching the news. He says it was a publicity stunt and no one will buy it. And Kim says he'll love a hero, and she smiles, and really awesome plan by Jimmy. And you get the whole thing at that point as he goes and checks his voicemail, and he has 7 new messages, which connects to the last couple of episodes when we've seen him have no messages and be very sad. He even did the finger thing again.
7 messages.
7 messages. And Jimmy sees the news airing and watches himself. And good episode ends on a very happy note, and that's all that happens, right?
Nope.
No. Who do you think he paid to get to risk his life? I almost wanted it to be the guy that he pulled up there. I almost wanted it to be the same guy from the beginning. I wanted to see it be to do the Arrested Development thing when it's always the same con man when he plays a con on his kids. I almost wanted to see it be that same guy, but I don't know. It would be tough. And how much did he pay him to do that? How much would it take you, Joe, to be the guy hanging?
How much would he have to pay me to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, not much at all. Not much at all. You know, do I get to go out and buy my own harness and belays and stuff and clamps? Then yeah, not much at all.
He'll fund for goods, of course.
You pay for that stuff because I don't have any of that equipment, and then I'll go up there and set it all up. Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'd do it. No problem. I don't care.
Raymond, welcome to the room. I love this episode. It was amazing. It gets better and better. I couldn't say it better myself. This show the story is engulfing me, and I'm so excited for next week again. I can't wait to see where they go next with this, especially as we're about where we go here. So then Jimmy pulls up at Chuck's place, and he grabs newspapers off the driveway, except missing one. He goes to the front page of the Metro section, and he thinks about how to talk to his brother about everything that happened. So instead, he puts the paper in the trunk of his car, and he grabs some bags, and he takes them inside. He leaves his phone, and he grounds himself and all the other gear in the mailbox as he heads inside to deal with Chuck. And he tells Chuck that his phone is ringing off the hook, that he's got 3 consults before lunch. Chuck asks what credits this change, and you can tell Chuck doesn't know what's going on. And Jimmy says he took his advice and did good work. He really wants Chuck's support. You can see he doesn't want Chuck to think that's slipping Jimmy's back. He wants him to think that everything's on the up and up. He asks if he's been getting referrals from the public defenders, and he almost seems proud of Jimmy for a second. He says, sure, and then he just needed to get his face out there.
Yeah, no, that's where I got to say too that's where I'm saying that even Chuck is on a different level than these other lawyers in his firm, because he'll see that headline and know immediately that it was all a con.
Yeah,
immediately. There won't even be and that's why Jimmy doesn't even want to have to try to explain it to him, because he knows no matter how he tries or whatever comes out of his mouth, his brother's going to see right through the fucking bullshit.
Absolutely. He has even no matter how good of a con man somebody is, there's at least one person on earth that is kryptonite to that super con man and can just see through a person's bullshit because they know them well enough.
Yep.
And Chuck is not only pretty bright when it comes to picking shit up, you can see from a certain extent, he also just knows Jimmy, and Jimmy's bullshit doesn't work. Saul bullshit doesn't work on Chuck.
Yeah. So
Chuck asks if it's the Bergeron, the prosecuting attorney that's sending clients his way, and Jimmy says it was someone that's Kate, excuse me, if it's Kate, and he says no, it was someone on his team. Jimmy says it's elbow grease and clean living, and Michael McKean, Chuck said he knew he had it in him, and he's very happy for him, but he asks where's his newspaper, that his newspaper is missing, one of the newspapers. Jimmy said he didn't see it outside, that maybe a kid forgot it and didn't grab it. Jimmy said, you have enough reading material. You don't need that newspaper. And he says he's got to go, and he wishes him luck today, which Chuck makes sure he says, but if that paper isn't there tomorrow, you let me know, because then we have a problem. And he watches Jimmy leave. But after Jimmy pulls out of the driveway, Chuck looks, and he sees. If I had spooky music right now, I'd start to play the spooky music. Chuck looks, and there's a paper in the neighbor's driveway. Jimmy's been fucking with him. So he goes and gets the solar blanket, and he puts it over his head, and he goes to the door and opens the door and mentally prepares himself to go outside. And then what happens is one of the coolest scenes I've seen on television in a while. The sun starts shining on him, and it's him freaking out, and almost, I don't even know how to explain it. They take it from his perspective that he's running, crossing the street. He can hear electricity crackling and power lines above him.
He's in the space blanket, so you're hearing that crackle. You're also hearing him scream in pain because of the solar radiation, and B, the electromagnetic waves and the radio waves and all the waves that are coming at him.
Or do you think they were also just doing from his perspective, just showing you
a little bit of that? Yeah, a little bit of that.
Something at the end from a comment that one of our listeners sent us about Chuck's condition. We'll get into that in a second. So yeah, he grabs the newspaper of one of the neighbors and he tosses down some money on the ground and it rolls off and then he puts it back. Very funny stuff by Michael McKean here. And he runs back into the house and the neighbor kind of sneeringly watches him the whole time out her window. And Chuck flips through the paper and sees the story on Jimmy, which he pulls the solar blanket over his head and he curls on up. And that's the end of our episode. How is Chuck going to deal with this whole situation? And before we go any further, I do want to say Troll Cold or Troll Scold on the subject of Chuck's disease. He's guessing it's something called, and there's been a couple of things pointing towards this, a disease called EHS, electromagnetic hypersensitivity. It basically is or appears to be a particular form of hypochondria, though. Those who suffer for it claim to exhibit various painful and troublesome symptoms that, when exposed to electromagnetic fields, such as those emitted by phones and various other electromagnetic devices. Studies have shown that those who claim to suffer from EHS don't seem able to actually detect electromagnetic fields and will exhibit symptoms when they're exposed to even fake EM fields that they think are real. Nevertheless, the effects symptoms are real for people. They likely result in a placebo kind of effect.
Yes.
It seems to fit Chuck's case. It explains his current eccentric lifestyle and fear of stray electronics. It also makes complete sense that it would prevent him from acting as a lawyer. From what I've read about this, it seems a lot of people who believe they suffer from this are people who used to spend a lot of time talking on cell phones or otherwise interacting on electronic devices. This also fits Chuck's background as a lawyer, being on the phone a lot. I bet he used to talk on the phone. I'm also guessing back in 2002 when the show was set, studies on EHS were still in their relative infancy, so probably he wouldn't have been debunked as hypochondriac yet. So it's still up in the air. So awesome work, Troll.
I agree with most of that, almost all of that, like 99% of that, with the exception of 2002, that studies being in the infancy. Maybe with it's definitely fits a certain disorder, group of disorders, axis, so to speak. So, it's I think they know a lot about it. It's just I just don't think it was in the infancy of studying. I'm sure people have been suffering from these disorders forever in the same kind of, manner.
But you could say that in 2002, it was directly after the cell phones were starting to become a big point.
Oh no, there was a big boom in cell phones right after that. There was a lot of talk about cancer, tumors, and stuff with the use of cell phones.
That could feed into that. So
absolutely, that feeds into that disorder, 100%. Like I said, everything I agree with the exception of the electromagnetic hypersensitivity disorder or syndrome or whatever it is. being early in its study. I think there have been people that have been dealing with that
but remember,
disorder or syndrome since Edison came up with let's wire New York.
I hear you. So let's go to the chat room and finish off our comments here. What do we think? Raymond says, what do we think about next week's episode? I think that the previews like to fuck with me in this show more than any other show, so it's hard for me to comment on the previews because it doesn't seem like they're going in any one direction. I think you're going to see a lot of Chuck in this next episode. I think it's going to be a lot of Chuck's reaction to the situation and him and Jimmy dealing with their interaction. I wonder if you're going to see the Kettleman people come back or Tuco or Nacho come back next week. It's going to be interesting. From everything I've been hearing about this show, I said this before, there's some big climax coming in episode 6. From what I've heard and from a couple of other podcasts and people that know a little bit about the production of the show, there's a lot of hype and hovering around episode 6. So
well, it makes sense. You need a big mid-season jump, like a big bomb to get people to want to watch the rest of the last 4 or 5 episodes. You got to give them some sort of big bombshell.
And Chicky Baby adds that when we're talking about someone's oblivious to someone else's bullshit, like Walt's bullshit worked on everyone but Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Skylar was completely immune to his bullshit. And eventually, by the end, Jesse as well. But for so long, Jesse's bullshit, Walt's bullshit worked on Jesse. But when Jesse finally figured everything out in that last season, nothing Walt could say Jesse would buy. Yeah. Unintended consequences, Redmond, yes. Chicky Baby, I thought he was going to die in the street or pass out. Me too. I thought he was just going to... craziness. And Liquid Eagle says, that scene made me afraid to go outside. Of course. And we have Big Kev, I think, has one more comment too. Oh, no, that was Raymond as well. Big Kev, hope you're doing well in poker, my friend. Okay, guys. So now's a good time to wrap up. We'd like to thank everyone that checked out our Vikings podcast earlier and checking out our Walking Dead from earlier in this week. We will be back later in the week, possibly the Friday, early part of the weekend, Friday-ish, to do a little bit of Game of Thrones episode. What is it, episode 3 now? Episode 3?
Season 1, 3.
Season 1, 3. And then we'll be back to do it all again next week, starting on Sunday, for Walking Dead, Better Call Saul, and Vikings. So, Joe, have a good night, my friend. Thank you, everybody that's been checking us out and commenting and hanging out with us in the chat room. As we always say, it means a lot to us, and it makes watching these shows all the more fun.
Yes, it does.
And if you have any more thoughts about this episode or Better Call Saul, just in general, please share it in the comment section during the week and keep the conversation going. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and share the video. It definitely helps us, and thumbs up helps us as well. And if you have any questions or questions or comments, you can email me at igotissuesman@gmail.com. You can also leave voicemails if you're into that and want us to play it on the air on the next.
If that's what you're into, man.
Make sure you let us know what show it's for at the beginning of the message if you do. And you can also text this number, but 781-990-8509, and that number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you guys to leave your thoughts. If you happen to think about something at a period of time you want us to talk about on the show, you're welcome to use that number. And everybody, again, thank you so much. We will be back in a few days to talk some more Game of Thrones. As soon as we know the exact time we're doing that, I'll post the video as an upcoming event so you guys can prepare if you want to join us for that. And if you have any questions about that Game of Thrones podcast coming up or any comments about episode 3 and you won't be able to join us live, please email me or leave us a voicemail or a text at that number. So, guys, we'll talk to you soon, and can't wait for next week for Better Call Saul, Joe.
Me too.
Raymond, no, honestly, thank you. And
thank you, Raymond. Liquid, Chicky, Ren.
Yeah, for all
that came out to watch. Thank you.
Ren, Chicky Baby, Liquid Eagle, a lot of our stragglers that are in or out, the people that aren't in the chat room that are just listening because I see there's a bunch of you. So,
and
guys, that
just jumped in at the end. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We're done for now. The second podcast of the day. Our throats are hurting. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. I'm horrible at goodbyes. I could say goodbye for 2 hours, Joe. We could do a whole podcast of saying bye.